That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
Oh, no tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering.
Fairly alarmed here.
Welcome to MOTN Reads. This is Masters of the Nerdiverse Reads, where we take a deep dive into some of your favorite comic books, graphic novels, and overall short stories that happens to tickle our collective fancy. I'm, of course, your host, Mike G, and with me for this episode of MOTN Reads is none other than my also host, I wouldn't say Batman to Robin, it's more like Billy Lee to Jimmy Lee, Winter Trash Monk the Thizzard.
Lee, you understand the words coming out of my mouth? That Lee?
No, I was thinking of Lee.
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm Trash Monk, Trash Monk, Trash Monk,
Yeah.
I'm coming at you in a mid deep sleep or playing Slay the Spire, which is a roguelike card game. And I decided to take some time off of that to record this episode, folks.
Same here. And I'm coming up one of the most physically and emotionally, I would say, jarring weeks of my life. So,
it's the Percodan.
It's the Percocet. Molly Percocet. So reading this book actually helped me balance back out and put things in perspective, because this book is all about particular perspectives. And if you've read the title of this episode, you know we're doing the Mark Waid, Alex Ross classic, Kingdom Come. Man, I've been wanting to...
Yeah, it's a delightful black comedy with Jada Pinkett Smith, Cedric the Entertainer, Whoopi Goldberg.
Whoopi Goldberg, of course.
Yeah. We're going to be recasting them all as Scarlett Johansson.
Yep. and Julia Roberts.
And Julia, yeah.
Oh, man.
Welfare.
Welfare. So, yeah, speaking of the welfare of the world, this book's all about that, isn't it? Yeah. It's all gloom and doom, and things do go boom, you know, in this crazy kind of future telling of the DC universe, kind of as a whole, all told from the perspective of one man and kind of his crisis of conscience and his influence on the future of where this particular elseworld of the DC universe could go. This book, man, I remember the first time I came across this book was years ago. We used to have a comic book club at the local comic book store. Every week we would go, and the owner of the comic book store would just pick out a graphic novel and just have the group read it, and we would talk about it. And this was one of those books where just completely not on my radar as a young man, and read it, and I was like, this is probably the best DC story ever wrote. You know? Yeah. I mean, head to toe, you mean like beginning, middle, and end DC story. It's really up there for me, you know. What's your experience with this book, Winter?
So I've never heard of this until I started doing Masters of the Nerdiverse, and I'm trying to read more comic books, and I thought it was going to be like a graphic novel length. Yeah. But we'll get into that later. But I started reading it, and it's there. I'm definitely coming in as someone who is like a newborn babe into the Kingdom Come.
Yeah,
like they're the research you can go online that will like pinpoint every reference, every character reference in the background. And I think that's the important part that I kind of missed. Actually, I think it's in the background of this copy that I have as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have a copy that's like that talks about the artwork, and stuff like that. Gives a little bit of a script at the end.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I have both a copy where it kind of goes into the backdrop of each individual character, because there are literally hundreds of superheroes in this book.
Yeah.
And I also bought this giant tome called Mythology, where it just pretty much breaks down Alex Ross's relationship and history with the DC universe. And it's just all Kingdom Come. He's done short stories for Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and just his love letter to DC. And these two tomes coupled together is just pure, just perfect. My envisioning of what the DC universe should be. It's just these two things put together.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm kind of curious to see where we should start in just the backdrop explanation.
Well, I think you should do a quick plot run through in the beginning, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, so pretty much we open the story, in kind of a sense of a premonition.
Yeah.
Of a kind of a premonition of what's to come, and we have our central character who is Wesley Dodds, who plays a pastor, who's kind of living in this new normal where he visits one of his kind of people he comes to visit, one of his elderlies. I forget his actual name. Norman McKay. No. Norman McKay is our main character. I'm sorry.
Right. This is the Sandman, and the one that he goes.
Yeah, that's what I like about Wesley Dodd is that he's one of the Golden Age Sandmen, because it's multiple Sandmen because it's DC. Uh-huh. So Wesley Dodd kind of sets this in motion and gives Norman a glimpse of the future of kind of, the end times are coming. And we kind of see this jaded pastor or preacher or what have you walking through the world of this new normal and kind of what's happened after the men and women of tomorrow have kind of hung up their capes and let the new generation come into play and just set the world on fire. Pretty much is what's going on. So just to break down Norman's character, what are your thoughts on Norman?
Well, I think we really should wait before you just need to run through the whole plot right now.
Did you just want me to go head to toe?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So, like I said, Norman is a pastor preacher who visits Wesley Dodd, who gives him a glimpse of the titular future, to where the heroes of the Golden Age, the Justice League, pretty much Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, they've all aged out. They've kind of all either retired or just kind of tucked back away to their own respective corners of the universe. And we've been introduced to this new age of heroes who have completely lost control, and they're just fighting for the sake of fighting and kind of keeping the world in a sense of turmoil for their own entertainment. Now, this is slowly bringing on the onset of the end of the world, to which Norman is then visited by the spirit of vengeance himself, the right hand of God, the Spectre, who kind of walks him through and carries him through as kind of a pseudo Ghost of Christmas Future kind of character, and kind of shows him the different players that are going to ultimately decide the end of the world. And do you want me to do full spoilers too? like in the synopsis?
You're just giving a rundown if someone goes like, what is Kingdom Come is all about?
Yeah, Kingdom Come is pretty much about Norman's, I would say, trip through the end of the world, and kind of him seeing all these different sides of things being played out from all different corners of the DC world, be it Batman's corner, Superman's corner, the villain's corner, and that because of certain events that are going to happen, the things are going to go one way or another, and Norman kind of has a direct influence on that, and kind of where the outcome of that falls, and where things go from there. Will the world be healed and set back in place, or is this truly the end of times? Is this truly the end of things that we do to ourselves? And Norman and Spectre kind of act as conscientious observers to this entire event. Not to go into the absolute end of the story,
right? But
needless to say, it's really about it's really about Norman's journey throughout these events that are going on as time passes and decisions are made and factions are created, because there's going to be an event that's going to actually cause just everything to end and all things to die, is kind of where we're going with this, and kind of the outcome of that. Maybe I'm explaining that a little too macro, but I'm just curious to see how you would kind of run this story down, and what would be your synopsis of this story.
No, that's pretty accurate. The yeah, it's hard to kind of it's hard to put it in a micro thing because the whole story isn't micro.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no time for little micro things here. Well, they do spend. I do have to say they do spend some time with Wonder Woman and Superman's relationship and all that. But the majority of the comic book is macro. You have so many things, big picture things going on that we sympathize. I sympathize with you there.
Yeah, I was like, it's hard to just have the synopsis is either feast or famine.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like I tell you everything or I tell you nothing. It's hard to just kind of do beginning, middle, and end with this in a weird way because it's just so big, you know?
Right. But like now that we have that laid in, we don't have to keep going back like inch by inch into the plot. We can now just talk about
bounce around. Yeah, absolutely. So where would you like to start? Where would you like?
Well, what was the first question that you had? It was about.
It was about your thoughts on Norman.
Yeah,
our kind of our main character.
Yeah. So Norman is it's very interesting that he is a pastor. There's something the message being conveyed is like pastors, well, according to me, or like the way I was reading it, pastors like give good news, they save people and all that. But how does he continue on in his profession as a pastor in a world where the good guys is kind of gray, where in the midst of them trying to help people, they're actually hurting people, and he needs to make sense of it. It kind of reminds me of like the way pastors or the way religious leaders interact with people, or like preach or like give messages after there's been like worldwide tragic events.
Yeah,
like there's been movements that have been like set up after like genocides have taken place, and pastors people are struggling with the question, why did this happen?
Correct. Absolutely.
So I think there's like a connection there of the character of going, okay, we have these superheroes that were supposed to help, but now they're second generation that doesn't have the foundation of the first one, which I think is important. Is an important thing to point out.
Yeah.
Storyline. They're wrecking havoc. So why would this happen? And you see, like in the beginning, that he struggles with his faith. Yep,
absolutely. And then he's literally literally confronted by the force of God. You know what I mean? Put all your doubts are put aside now. Guess what? I am an instrument of God's will. And you are required right now. So it's kind of this man of faith whose faith has been kind of teetering based upon your summary there. Just kind of how do you explain things that bad things happen to good people, and yet maintain your strength and faith in a higher power. But then the specter just kind of appears and says, yeah, all of this is real. Your faith is not misplaced, but I really need your help with something.
Right. And this is like always in the background of Superman comics, right? Like this is how Zack Snyder makes his bread and butter when he made Superman movies, of like this backdrop of Superman being a deity of sorts.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of connected here of going, what happens when this figure decides to retire?
What happens when God goes to sleep?
Yeah.
It's one of those things where, and my biggest gripe with that is that it's a misplaced worship, that Superman into himself is a false god because he never brings that upon himself. But the whole point of Superman, he never sees himself that way,
Right.
He always sees himself as just a Kansas City guy just trying to do best as he can, and the world puts that on him.
Right. Can't you say that he kind of looks that way in this, but in Kingdom Come? Like, what's the because it's
absolutely.
The reason why he comes back is going, well, I have a duty to do this.
The reason, and let's talk about Superman. And this is a good segue to talk about Superman, who's outside of Norman is the kind of the secondary. He's the actual real, the physical world hero of the story. And the main reason he leaves is because, I guess, 10 years earlier, there was some kind of controversy with the small upgrowth of the new generation of heroes who, like you were mentioning earlier, have no control, who aren't built on the truth, justice, and American way of their forefathers. And Superman is trying to fight that battle, just saying these guys are out of control, and your guys are cheering them. You're enabling this new future that you're not prepared for. In the same time, the Joker is actually on trial for killing Lois Lane, which is insane. Between the world slowly shunning the old school and his love of his life dying, Superman exiled himself, and just said, you know what, you Earth, you can have it. I'm done. I'm mentally done. And he just the man in Superman just couldn't handle it anymore.
Right, and that has the ripple effect of all the other heroes going, well, if Superman's not going to do it,
I guess I'm done too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wonder Woman goes back to Themyscira. Aquaman retreats to Atlantis. Batman just focuses on Gotham. The Justice League pretty much disbands, Certain heroes are still doing their thing in their respective areas, but everything's broken up, and just it lays ground for this new generation of heroes to just do whatever the hell they want, and which is causing most of these problems. Yeah. Also, I don't want to not forget to mention the Kansas incident with Parasite. Oh, right. Which is another big thing, which is Parasite accidentally cracks open Captain Atom, which is it always happens in comics. Captain Atom just doesn't need to be a superhero, because if he gets damaged in any way, he's pretty much just a walking nuke. And he just nukes wherever if you cut him open, it's just a nuke, and it just white phosphor cleans everything he's next to. So those three things kind of all happening concurrently was kind of the birth of this new crazy normal, which I believe Mark Waid really wanted this to be kind of a metaphor for where comic books were going when this book came out, because during this time was the time that it was the birth of Image Comics. When all the major comic book influencers at the time, may it be Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri, said, Marvel's not letting us do what we want to do. Like, we want to do crazy stuff. So they all left, and they all created Image Comics with Spawn and Savage Dragon and Youngbloods and all these super edgy, sharp, gunny, heroes and villains. And the old heads were just like, what is this, man? Like, these aren't heroes, but the world was eating it up, like people loved it. So I think this book is kind of a commentary to that 90s movement of stripping the wholesomeness out of your hero. And just, we all want dark, edgy heroes. So that's where you get characters like Magog. Who is just this gaudy golden god of a superhero. He's the poster boy of this new normal of all the patches, and he just looks like a hot mess, and that's the whole point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but there's the also point, like the best example that I can give is like older folks that were living in the Great Depression era, where they till the day they die, like, store everything. There's junk piles everywhere. And then you have their children, which never grew up not having anything because there's junk piles and food for days everywhere. So they don't understand the necessity of saving because there's always an abundance of stuff lying around. So it's like a different, like, generation, like, again, the foundation's not there. So there's a lot less carelessness, or a lot
less carelessness. There's not any pride or worth into what was laid out for them. Yeah. So they just and a lot of these heroes in this book are the sons and daughters of other heroes.
Right. Well, that's how it works in reality, or like in the real world, like parents, and then like then children. What is it like? Magog. It could be like the X-Files of the DC universe, where X-Files can only be created in a world where everyone, like, people understand what skepticism of the government is. The government's lying to you, all that other stuff, which are like young people type mentality.
Yeah, uncovering the truth.
Yeah,
Where in this case,
or like just breaking it down, because there's an important section, like Batman is still doing Batman things.
yeah, and that's
Or
one of
saying-
the
yeah.
that's one of the cool things is because Wonder Woman goes to confront Superman, like, you got to get out this lull, man.
Right.
These kids are going to destroy the earth, and we need to show them the way. Superman's like, I tried showing them the way, man. They weren't trying to hear me.
Right.
And that's when they go to the montage of, like you said, Batman still doing Batman things, running his bat droids. The Flash is still doing Flash things. There's people out there still trying to make a difference, but you are the center of that. You're the nucleus of what makes the Justice League work. Without you, it doesn't work. So we get to the story where Superman makes his triumphant return. He cuts off his facial fuzz, and
I do want to say that I find it interesting that that's how Batman survives, because it feels like he becomes the thing that he would totally not be for in the world, like one person having his own
everything.
police force around. Yeah,
and I think that's just part of his own frailty.
right.
Because in this book, Bruce Wayne is a beaten, broken man. Like, he can barely walk around without some nutty exoskeleton that allows him to function. Because he's just been a man this whole time.
Exactly. I think that's a very clever way of just pointing that out.
Yeah, it's just like he needs these robots, these bat drones are his arms, legs, and will now, because he can't do it himself anymore.
Yeah, and it's also I think that you can even parallel with Superman, because Superman, I mean, they both had the mantle of like leading people, and and Superman just leaves. Batman, although he has his own group that we find out later on, he mainly looks like he just focuses on robots.
He focuses on robots in Gotham, dude. He's not worried about anything else.
Yeah.
He kind of goes on to keep doing what he does. And this is before Batman Beyond. You know what I mean? This is before that idea. Would it have been cool to have Batman Beyond in this story in lieu of that? Yeah, it would have been neat, but this is before that time. So, Superman kind of reappears on the global scale,
right,
and kind of starts to kind of discipline these heroes, you know what I mean? And the world just starts to just totally upend, because it's just all out war all over the world with these metahumans, these ticking time bombs, and these heroes have been just with a devil may care attitude, just ripping the world apart. And the Justice League kind of show back up and say, hey, sorry.
Right.
We kind of took a little break, but we plan to just kind of set things back straight. You know what I mean?
Locking up both villains and quote unquote heroes.
And they create a new Batman
Supermax prison.
a Supermax Ultra prison, where Superman actually goes to talk to Bruce, and of course Batman is, if anything, stubborn. And at first he's not trying to hear him. You know what I mean? So we get, there's time passes where this is where I kind of alluded to, factions start being made. You know what I mean? And Superman's kind of growing his contingency. Batman already, like you said, already has an established team. And then we start getting into the villains, which is one of the more interesting parts of this story, because we still have Lex Luthor, we still have Catwoman and all this stuff, but they have a trump card in their pocket, which is one of the more interesting parts of the story. One of the more interesting kind of characters is Captain Marvel.
Yes.
What was your feeling about this? I mean, not being like a big DC head, did that appearance jar you at all? Or were you just like, oh, okay, that's...
I didn't quite know what was happening until the comic book itself told me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I had to look up Captain Marvel and all that. how perhaps he's the only real, or like one of the real threats to Superman, would you say?
Yeah, and that's what kind of jarred me, is because he's one of the only heroes in DC Comics who can just fight Superman.
Right.
Like, no tricks, no kryptonite, no red sun, just fight him on his level and beat him. And he's just walking around, and they kind of alluded to, like, he's like this, to all the other villains, he's this great white shark that's just walking through the water, and everybody's just on edge when he's around.
Right.
Because he himself is a Superman that's under complete control of this evil cabal of villains. Right. And I was like, yikes. I see why they're not worried about nothing.
Now, since we're at this scene, could you explain the purpose of having the Riddler at the meeting?
Yeah, it looks like there was just contingency, or there was just a group of the brightest minds and that are living in the brightest villainous minds in the DCU. So you had Ra's al Ghul's son, you had the Dark Archer, you had Lex Luthor, Catwoman, the Riddler. Is actually noted as being one of the smartest people in the DC universe.
Okay.
In regards to his function. I mean, he's not Metatron or anything, like, he's not cosmically smart, but he's gotten over on Batman multiple times, and that kind of was their reasoning for having him at the table. It's just because he's really good at kind of deciphering clues and creating clues and things like that. So that's where he got his seat at the table for. Mm-hmm. That's the same reason why Catwoman's there, because she's very conniving and knows how to get in and out of situations. And these are the veterans at this point of DC villainy. So I think that's why they had a seat at the table when they were all just kind of coming up with a plan over the reemergence of the Justice League, and kind of,
right.
You know, what are we going to do now, and do we have anything planned for this? And, you know, and that's when Norman and Spectre kind of just snuck in on them and started watching. And it was like, oh, okay, you know, what's going on this side of the wall,
right?
You know what I mean? So. And this leads up to one of my favorite scenes in this book. One of my favorite scenes is where Superman goes to the superhero dive bar. And it's like, it's pretty much, it's literally Mos Eisley. It's just a den of scum and villainy.
Yeah. What music did you have in your head?
I was listening to, when I saw this scene, I was thinking like Marilyn Manson, like.
Same.
You know, I was like, Sweet Dreams Are Made of This or something, or.
I go right to the Matrix Rob Zombie Dracula.
Yeah, I was right there with you, like really crummy.
Yeah.
Like 2000 Blade. Yeah, I was thinking like some really crummy 2000s like butt rock, dude, or you know, like slimy like synth rock, you know, definitely some Twiki. Du hast mich, you know?
Yeah.
And so Superman just comes through, and he just demands so much respect and attention. Like, he just comes through, and everybody just stops what they're doing. And it's like, you know, you could just leave, Superman. We're kind of just doing our own thing in here. Right. Superman is like, I'm just so tired of all of you. And he just comes there and pretty much puts his foot down. It's like,
bar's closed.
Yeah, pretty much. And he's just like, he's like, look, y'all need to get it together. Because I will throw all of you in the gulag or whatever that thing is. I do not care. We don't have space. We don't have space for you in this future if you decide to keep acting this way. And there's some heroes that talk shit to him, but no one's going to do anything. You know, it's Superman, dude. You know what I mean? So he kind of just does that. And then
there's a scene. Well, this is where you'll find out later on in the comic, I believe. Trying to get to it. There's the skeleton dude.
Oh yeah, Dead Man, dude. He's
the only one that notices Norman there.
Dead Man is cool, dude. He's one of those characters that his name is Boston Brand or something like that. Yeah. He was a circus performer in like the early 20s, and he died. But the thing about his thing was that he retained his consciousness as death, and he's more or less a ghost, but he still walks the line between living and dead, because his power is to possess other living things. You know what I mean? He's just pretty much a ghost, But yeah, he can see the veil between life and death. So he kind of lives in the same place that the Spectre does.
Okay, yeah, you see in the panel, like everyone else is looking around, but this dead man is looking directly at the preacher inspector.
Yep.
So
That's really cool. That's a really good touch, because if anybody could see him that way, it is, it's Deadman, because he just has that power. But
and it makes sense later on in the comics.
absolutely. And then we have Superman's confrontation with Magog, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Where Magog is kind of still feeling bad about the whole parasite thing. And Superman goes to confront him about that whole situation. And Magog tries to fight Superman, but it's just like Magog never had a chance, against Superman.
Right.
He never had a chance. So the cool thing about the Gulag is that Superman goes to Apocalypse, which is the home for Darkseid.
These are added scenes, right?
Yes, these are the added scenes. Okay. They weren't in the original, so it gives you some backstory on the Gulag. Yeah. So the Gulag was created using apocalyptic technology, which is like 1 billion years ahead of Earth technology, created by Big Barda as the warden and Mr. Miracle as kind of the creator. And Mr. Miracle is the greatest escape artist in the universe. Like you can't hold him down for anything. So they retrofitted his power to escape to create something that's non-escapable.
Right.
Yeah, so they used him and Big Barda to create this Gulag where they were going to place all these bad influence heroes and villains. You know what I mean? So, and that's kind of where things start becoming really problematic, because they start just piling in these people and then trying to kind of like socially and psychologically readjust them to be heroes, which is kind of creepy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like first forcing them into this place and then trying to give them resources.
Yeah, try to give them resources to become more well-rounded, okay, this is the right thing to do. You shouldn't just shoot your friend because you're mad at them. Your powers have a responsibility. You know what I mean? And they're like, this is driving me crazy. What is cigarette? Can I get a cigarette? They're like, no. You have to listen to Superman talk to you all day, which would drive anybody crazy. And there's a point that's made in the comic, like, yeah, this is going to come to a head eventually. All these powerful people are just going to have it with what we're trying to do here. Like, well, that's not today. So let's not worry about it. One key scene I do want to talk about is the scene you're talking about with Deadman, and kind of the gathering of the gods of the DC universe.
Right.
Which is Ganthet of the Green Lanterns, the Wizard Shazam, the High Father of New Genesis, just these, and they're just kind of deciding the fate of the world. They're just kind of like, it's their problem. The Earthlings are gonna Earthling. Let them figure it out. And this is and Norman's not in this conversation because he can't just stand amongst these guys. So it's the Spectre is in this conversation.
Right. But doesn't Norman get pulled in there somehow?
Yeah. Norman just starts to talk to these dudes, and they're like, and they just ignore him. Like, what? Get out of here. Who is this? Who brought him? Know? And Deadman's like, yeah, man, you don't want to talk to them, man. They're not trying to hear you, dude. And Deadman's just kind of all nonchalant about it. He's like, yeah, everybody dies, man. Look at me. I'm a skeleton dude.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, since it doesn't affect him, then he doesn't worry about it.
Yeah, he's like, when you die, look me up. He's no big deal. And like you were mentioning earlier, when we were going into like Superman and Wonder Woman's relationship, and I always thought that was weird to put Superman and Wonder Woman together as a couple, though it's happened a few times in the comics. Their relationship is kind of not only splintered, but at the same time brought closer due to the events of this story.
Yeah.
Where at some point they're at odds because they have differing views of how things should go. And they're both leaders, they're both alphas, so they're both very stubborn when it comes to defaulting to someone else's ideals, especially if they're passionate about it. Especially Wonder Woman. She's not going to have it. So there is a part of the story where they kind of I would say, split hairs, as it were. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it kind of and that also causes towards the end of the world and all these deciding factors that kind of go toward the climax of this book. And I just want to mention real quick, one of my favorite scenes of the story is where they're meeting in Green Lantern's Ultra satellite. It's just Ultra that's floating over the Earth, and McKay and the Spectre kind of listening in on the Justice League's meeting, where Superman's just kind of like, all right, this is what's going to happen. And you just notice the Flash is able to see them too.
Yeah.
And the Flash is like, wait, who's that? And he just pulls him out of that dimension and just drops him right in front of Superman. I thought that was so cool. I was like, yeah, the Flash would probably be able to see him too, because he's constantly bouncing between the Speed Force and our world. So he's also one of those heroes that can have multi-dimensional view, you know. And then McKay is like, yeah, I'm just some dude from Earth, man. Like, just to tell you, the world's gonna end, man. Just in time is here. And Superman's like, all right, take him home, man. Just get him a soda and go lay him down. He doesn't really take him seriously. You know what I mean? And I just think that part is cool, because another cool thing about the Flash in his story is that he never stops running. He just runs around his town all day, every day, 24 hours a day.
Like, kind of like the Hulk in anger? What?
Yeah. It's just, he never stops. So crime doesn't happen. The second someone pulls a gun to try to do a robbery, the gun's gone and the guy's in jail. Like, the second someone jaywalks, they're just on the other side of the street. Like, everyone in this town is so on edge because the Flash is just running around at top speeds all day. And anytime something wrong happens, even a little bit, the Flash is on it and he takes care of it.
Yeah.
The whole city's like in a red, they call it like a red fog. It's throughout the entire city. It's just the Flash. It's like
yeah, I'm surprised they didn't go the route of like,
how do you live like that, man?
Did Bad Boys come out or before or after this? The comic book Bad Boys. Okay.
I think after.
Yeah, they could have done the whole thing of like Flash ran into somebody.
Yeah, and just exploded. You know what I mean? Just exploded somebody like in The Boys. Yeah, and then we find out kind of like why Shazam is under the influence of Lex Luthor, is that they've been putting little Mr. Mind worms in his head the entire time, and kind of slowly brainwashing him the whole time. And the Shazam just kind of loses his mind. He just kind of goes ultra crazy. You know what I mean?
As what would happen.
As are the theme of things.
But then, as soon as they activate Shazam, is that before or after the twist?
Which twist are you talking about?
The one where Bruce Wayne goes, "Psych, I'm not with you guys."
Yeah, that's during that exact same time.
Right.
So Bruce Wayne says, "Psych, I'm not with you guys," and he starts a coup amongst the villains and tries to break them up. And then Shazam kind of snaps out of it. Or Billy Batson kind of snaps out of it and realizes that he's been being brainwashed this whole time, and just screams Shazam and just breaks out. And they're like, "Oh shit! Now we got a wild Shazam floating around." Run
away! No, I thought Lex Luthor activated him, and then he went to fight, Superman.
Well, the thing with Shazam is that he's always been activated, because his Billy Batson form, he never left his Billy Batson form after like some tragic event where Billy Batson almost got killed. Yeah. So he just stayed Shazam this entire time. Yeah, which makes him technically immortal. You know what I mean? He just never ages. He's just that Shazam form.
I forgot about that. Yeah,
he doesn't become Billy Batson until the very end of the story again for like a split second. You know what I mean? Which is kind of nutty. But yeah, at this point, Superman goes back because the war is about to start like right now, like the actual war. What is it good for? And then Superman and Wonder Woman have their falling out, and it's like, we gotta kill stuff, man. Just in case things don't go our way. And Superman's like, no, we can't do it that way. And then Superman he goes back to Batman and has a super speech with Bruce. He kind of tells him like, it's the end of the world, man. You need to shape up or ship out. you know, we honestly can't do this without you, you know? And Superman is like, all right, forget it, because Bruce is still giving him a hard time. So this is where Billy Batson goes to the gulag and just breaks it open, like cracks it wide open for no reason, just apropos.
Release the hounds.
Release the hounds of war. So all of these really pissed off superheroes and villains pop out and just like, all right, we got to go round them up. So Superman comes back, but he's intercepted by Billy Batson, the Captain Marvel. And this final battle, not, you know, we can do spoilers because, you know, this book is 1,000 years old, but this doesn't go the way you think it would go, right? It's like, it doesn't have a happy ending in a weird way.
Right. It doesn't have the
events.
superhero type ending.
That's one thing I love about this book. And I know we didn't want to do a blow by blow, and technically we didn't. We're still we're doing broad strokes of this story. But yeah, there's a side mission of the UN planning to bomb just to nuke the entire site, which is actually all going on while we have this super Civil War before Civil War moments between Superman and Captain Marvel and all these heroes and villains fighting each other. And Superman just can't beat this in his prime Captain Marvel. You know what I mean? Because that's one of the things about Captain Marvel is that he doesn't age, he doesn't slow down. He's powered by stupid, unbreakable magic. And Superman has aged, you know.
Right.
And it's just like he just can't beat him at this point. And of course, you get shots of Superman in his cool suit, Batman in his cool suit rather, and Superman is finally able to snap Captain Marvel out of it for a split second, and he kind of gives him the ultimatum, like, "Look, you're back to Billy Batson. You have a choice. You can either like stand down and let me save the Earth and sacrifice myself, or we could just keep fighting like idiots and just let the world end because there's no other options." But Billy Batson makes a second choice. Yeah. Where here he does become Captain Marvel one last time, intercepts the nuke, and sacrifices himself so everybody else could live. And that's kind of how this all ends. And everybody in that blast radius just dies, you know, except Superman because he can't be injured.
Superman, Wonder Woman,
and Batman survive.
I thought the Green Lantern
died too, I think. Did he die? Okay. Yeah, a lot of them didn't make it out.
Right.
There's this cool graveyard scene.
Screen wipe.
The snap pretty much happens. And then Superman is so pissed he goes to the UN. It's just going to destroy the Earth that way. Because if it wasn't for them and their stupid nuke, they probably could have solved this issue a lot better. But Norman kind of talks him down for making a horrible decision. And Superman just kind of stops that and realizes that, Green Lantern survives. Yeah. Hal Jordan survives. So
yeah,
they all just kind of stand down, and then the healing starts. You know, they start bringing the Justice League reassembles. They start bringing the world back together. Some of those non-lethal new age heroes stick around. You know what I mean? They see the light of day. And the story ends with them reconvening at this. One thing about the story, it has this gaudy Planet Hollywood kind of restaurant.
Right. This is also an extra, right?
Yeah. This gaudy, you know, where they kind of have a conversation like, "Yeah, man, how you guys doing?" "Oh yeah, no, me and Wonder Woman are expecting in a couple of months. Like, what are you gonna name them?" You know, things like that.
Right.
And Batman's like, "Oh yeah, you know, I built a shelter in Gotham. You know, I'm trying to have a positive influence, not just a negative." And he doesn't wear the black Batman suit. It's all white now, you know. So everyone's as you know, trying to be more lighter. And then the story ends on an upbeat note of, we had a crappy past, but we have a brighter future.
Now, if you ask me, I preferred the one scene that they added in the middle of the story. I don't really think they needed the Planet Hollywood ending, but it was a good run.
Good run, man.
He survived.
He survived, dude. I just wanted to take a second to talk about the artwork of this book. This is one of the most beautiful comic books I've ever read in my life.
Can you name another comic book that has this style?
that has this kind of artwork.
Yeah.
Well, Alex
Gaucho
Ross,
or whatever it's called.
yeah, this gaucho kind of painty artwork.
Gaucho marks.
Gaucho marks. Not many artists use this style. Maybe Paulo Rivera. He does a lot of Spider-Man work. Uses a lot of this art style, but not as photorealistic.
Isn't it? Wouldn't people call this a Norman Rockwell or whatever?
Yeah. Alex Ross is known as the Norman Rockwell of comics.
Oh,
okay. Yeah, funny enough, you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Alex Ross is known for doing pretty much all he ever does is like covers, right? Because it's so detailed. He would only ever do covers and just kind of like one-off, like side covers for Superman, Batman. He's done some Marvel stuff too, including Marvels, which would be another good read for us. But he never does interiors. He never does a whole book. And this is one of the few books he's ever done where he just did that style the entire way. And it's like, it's a cover on every panel. You know what I mean? It's so detailed and lit well and just beautiful throughout the entire way. He's one of those artists that inspired me when I was a young artist to be like, you can get as detailed or as simple as you want, because he blends that line of simplicity and detail. Mm-hmm. And you can get any panel from this book and it's just artwork. It's just beautiful, you know, how this art works. And nonetheless, the story from Mark Waid, like I said, this is one of my favorite graphic novels of all time, just because, like you said, you're coming into this as a baby to the DC universe, like just I mean, you know, Superman, you know, Batman, the big names.
Yeah, I know Superbat and Man
and Wonder Cat. But you don't know the detailed history, and you don't really need to for this story.
Well, yeah, you don't need to, but it's what makes a movie or a piece of art like this last a long time is the people can find more and more stuff connected to it.
Yeah.
So there's like stuff that I'm missing that of like Bruce Wayne's son or Robin's son. There's a connection there at the end where they're in the infirmary or something like that that I totally missed until like I read more about it. There's stuff for the beginner, for the novice, and for the expert.
Absolutely. And this is, like you said, the reason this book just kind of stands the test of time is because there's layers to it. There's so much going on when this is going on. If you just wanted to look at one character, like, oh, what are they about? There's a whole history of Reach. Like that skeleton dude was cool. I just want to read about Dead Man. You could just read about Dead Man for months. Right. You know, all his books and all his history. And I think Norman was a good, you know, point of view character to kind of walk us through this love letter to DC Comics. You know what I mean? Past, present, future. If you had to rate this comic on a score of a score from 0 gulags to 5 gulags, how many gulags would you give it?
I give it a 4 because Watchmen is still a 5 in my book.
That's hard to beat, man.
Yeah, and I would give it a 4.5 because here I like the ideas that the comic book is tackling. I feel I'm becoming more and more the type of person that if the people recommend me superhero comics and they aren't tackling like heavy issues like this, I tend not to read them. I would prefer to read Tales of Suspense or Tales from the Crypt or suspenseful stories, stuff like that. But yeah, I'd give it a 4.5.
I'm just curious. I just thought of a question. Were you surprised by the subject matter of this book? Or was it just like, you're just like, oh, like what do you do? What do you expect in something like this, right? But
I was a little surprised just because I didn't know what I was getting myself into, sort of thing, and the different routes that it was taking. It doesn't. I don't think it ever it lands. It's hard to determine on the barometer where it stands, sort of thing. Yeah. In my mind, I like what is there's so many what is the main message?
What is the main message of this book? And that's kind of where that 5 points comes from me as well, which I would give it a 4.5 because you can't tell me anything about the artwork. It's just immaculate.
Right.
Alex Ross at his peak, but the story in itself, it's like I was stumbling to tell you a quick synopsis of this book, because it's hard to get a through line for what it's trying to tell you.
But it's like that. I mean, that alone, I can't like say at the back, because there's like works of literature that are like hard to understand, but they're still like good. But
Yeah,
I think this is like it. There's still possibly some superhero tropes that they still cling to, and that's why I could get confused in some parts. All in all, it's a good attempt, and it's also the epilogue that the deleted scenes added did not really help the story. It feels like
it just made it more
kind of like,
convoluted.
let me throw some other ideas going on about like commercialism and all this stuff.
Yeah, it's because at first, like, now that we're talking about it, it makes me think, if I had to say this book was about one thing, it's the confirmation of faith. You know what I mean? It's a confirmation of finding your faith through adversity and through pain and through loss. Where Norman had to find his faith, Superman had to reevaluate his faith, Batman
only
had to
after
reevaluate.
a nuke gets thrown out.
Only after like super nukes have landed and killed multiple things.
Yeah.
That these heroes had to refine their resolve and their faith in their message. You know, the faith and message, right? Norman was having a hard time finding the faith in his message, where the world is going out of control. You know what I mean? Superman had to refine the faith in his message from a planet that shunned him for the new hotness. Right. You know what I mean? So I think it's just a reaffirmation of faith in the future and faith in mankind on both sides of a meta god like Superman and an aging man of faith like Norman. So I would also give this book a 4.5, just because it's damn near perfect to me. But I do think the story could be a little tighter.
Well, I would go, it could be longer myself. Like if they did like, instead of I can't remember how many issues they did or how many chapters they did, but if they did it longer, like, I want to go Preacher size.
You want this to be like an omnibus, huh? You know, this story could have had there's a lot in the middle of this story that could be fleshed out.
Like instead of like, they keep trying to go, like I read on Wikipedia that they've done like prequels and sequels or whatnot.
Yeah, it's a ton of Kingdom Come in the Kingdom Come universe, you know.
But it's not, Alex Ross didn't write it, or Max Wade didn't do they ditched the artwork or something like that.
It's not the same.
No,
man.
like if they did it all, like I would take even a V for Vendetta, like just like that.
Yeah.
And I would have enjoyed more, because you really need to flesh out these ideas, I think.
Absolutely.
That many.
It's very condensed. There's no watering down of any of the thoughts or ideas of this book, and that could be its biggest problem. Is that
that's the bigger, like the Riddler. Like the reason why I asked about, like, that would be so interesting to explore why there was the tension of bringing him to the group.
Yeah, because he's trouble.
Right.
And like Catwoman, he plays both sides.
Right.
But you don't know that if you're not a avid DC comics reader,
Yeah.
you know? And that's where that kind of gets lost. It's kind of, I was watching a YouTube earlier, and they were talking about, I don't feel anything for the person who makes Avengers Endgame their first Marvel movie. You know? Like you're insane, right? So reading a book like Kingdom Come with no additional knowledge of the universe can leave you a bit stranded, especially with certain approaches to certain characters. You know what I mean? And it's just like, oh, that seems weird. Why would Superman act that way? I was like, well, because of Death of Superman issue 94, silly stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, man. You ready to get into some casting?
Let's do it. I believe I'm ready.
Yeah, man. So part of our MOTN reads is that whatever graphic novel we read, we do a fun little fan cast where we cast the main, I would say, characters of our graphic novel, and with actors who we think would best fit the role. And we also assign a director who we think's vision would best stay true to the source material of this book, like Zack Snyder. Like M. Night Shyamalan. So normally with this, I would go hero for hero, and we'll just do and then we'll just kind of do our stragglers at the end. So you ready to cast some heroes, my good man?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Let's start with Superman. Who did you cast to be your Superman in your Kingdom Come DC movies picture, dude?
So, I think so. A lot of these people, a lot of the connections I think I have are paying homage to other things that are connected to comic books.
Yeah.
So, who's the? Now I can't remember the name. Kevin something. He does the voice of Batman.
Kevin Conroy.
Yeah, Conroy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would. He's old. He's old and gristly enough that I think he could play a good Superman.
Interesting.
If not, the guy from Seinfeld that shouts out, "We're the Devils!"
Oh yeah, Putty, dude. What's his face? He played the Tick as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think I have him for a different role. So
okay. Like you said, these are all aging actors, right?
Yes.
There's only a couple of actually quote unquote young people in this story because they're all older. So Superman was one of the toughest ones for me to cast.
Yeah.
But like you, I wanted to pay homage to other things. So my cast for Superman is a weird casting, but I think it would fit. Is Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner is a good pick.
I cast him as Superman because A, he has ties to the Superman universe. He's playing Pa Kent. B, he's still a strapping older gentleman. He has a jaw.
Yeah.
He can be stoic.
Got a jaw. That's great.
Superman needs a jaw. And he's just super stoic, and he can really play this beaten, downtrodden Superman in this super future. So I think you put some muscle on Kevin Costner. You get his old self in the gym a little bit. I think he'll be a good fit. That's a good one. Yeah, man. Who's the next character you would want to cast?
Well, I think we should do Batman.
Let's do Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you got for your Batman, my good man?
I would have Michael Keaton come back.
Interesting. I was super tempted to make Michael Keaton come back.
Yeah,
I was super tempted. But
it makes sense, but it would be again connecting to the Batman movie, all this other stuff. So I think that would be a good role.
I picked a weird Batman, dude. I was really trying to think outside the box. So my Batman's going to be Daniel Day-Lewis, dude. He's my Batman.
Now I don't feel bad about my Superman pick.
Not at all, man. My Batman is Daniel Day-Lewis, the infinite actor, the guy who can do anything.
Yeah.
He already has gray hair. He already has the gray black. The most stoic actor on the earth. He's going to drink your milkshake.
Yeah.
The guy who can act and do anything, the last of the Mohicans. Throw that mechanical crap on him. He's Bruce Wayne, dude. And he'll act his ass off. He will give you a role. So my Batman's going to be a ode Daniel Day-Lewis, dog.
All right.
Let's do Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman. I was going to go Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Interesting. Foreign, kind of. She can have an accent because Wonder Woman does have like a Themysciran accent. That's right. Cool. I dig it. My Wonder Woman, I chose Sigourney Weaver as my Wonder Woman because she's tall, she's stoic. Wonder Woman, she's has pedigree as an action star. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think she can really fill out that role as an older Wonder Woman. I think she would be kind of cool. Plus, I have a thing for Sigourney Weaver, so I try to fit her into all daily conversations. Who do you have for Norman?
For Norman, so I first wanted to go Steve Weber. Mm-hmm. Do you know who Steve Weber? Okay.
Yeah.
Everyone knows. Okay. But then I was watching a YouTube video this morning, and now I want Tim Blake Nelson as Norman.
He also played the leader in the Incredible Hulk films, and is currently on Watchmen.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Or Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I like him. He's a good character actor. That guy. He would fit the role well.
He was also in Minority Report as Gideon.
He was Gideon. Somebody has their IBD up.
No, just watch 30 minutes of him talking about iconic roles.
Bad. I love it. This book needs some color. So I mixed it up a little bit for my Norman.
Oh no, you're gonna
So-
be that dark after.
Yeah, this book needs some color. And this is really one of the only characters that I can race swap. And I chose Jeffrey Wright to be my Norman McKay. He's in Westworld. He's going to be he's going to be Jim Gordon in the new Batman movie. African American actor, older gentleman. He can
That's a
really
good
fit.
pick.
He can really fit that role as like the pastor who's lost his faith. Amazing actor.
Yeah.
So I was like, let me spice things up a little bit. So I would definitely race swap him.
Can you do his voice? Yeah.
Yeah. He does that. He goes.
I don't know if I'm a man or a robot.
I don't know if I'm a man or a robot.
I'm getting too old for this.
I was gonna. You know, what's funny? I was gonna choose Danny Glover for that role.
Of course.
Because Danny Glover's outside of Morgan Freeman, who wouldn't be a good fit for this. He's a good old black man. The old black man. Yeah. Did you cast Magog?
Magog, I would. So it has to be a younger person.
Yep.
For some reason, Ryan Gosling comes to my mind.
Okay.
But you're now making me super cautious about having only white actors and actresses. So
I only have that one dude. But yeah.
Oh well, now I don't feel so bad.
But
yeah,
you're fine.
But maybe have Michael B. Jordan play.
Yeah. Why? Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, cocky. But it's funny you say that because I cast Chris Hemsworth as Magog. Tall, kind of cocky. I could see him just being overly gaudy, kind of in your face, kind of superhero. You know,
the kid from Holes.
Do it. Do it. Who'd you cast as Spectre?
Spectre. Well, no. This now I remember. Because I had in my mind the guy from Stargate.
Which guy from Stargate?
The black one that went for God of War.
Oh, yeah. The mocap actor for Kratos, right?
Yeah.
He's cool. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. I can super see that.
He's got the voice.
You're not gonna like my choice for Spectre because I chose Jim Carrey.
No, shut up.
Yeah, Jim Carrey, dude. Jim Carrey.
Why?
Because one, Jim Carrey is a skinny skeleton looking dude.
Yeah.
B, he's a great method actor and a dramatic actor now these days. Mm-hmm. And the guy's haunted. He looks like he'll be a nice haunted stoic
this is the problem.
Character.
As soon as you get him on set, you're gonna go, okay, Jim Carrey, this is your time. Jim Carrey's been dead months ago. Years now.
Only the Spectre lives.
I'm like, what?
Only the Spectre lives.
I already have Jim Carrey reprising his role as Joker. Not Joker, the Riddler.
Oh, that's just, I didn't even do the Riddler, so
no, I only have Jim Carrey specifically for that. I didn't go that deep.
But yeah, I wanted something weird, and I wanted something like, is that Jim Carrey? Under the hood, you know what I mean? Give him like a cool booming voice. I think it would work.
Who'd you have for Green Lantern though?
I was just kind of free. I was just kind of freebasing. Mike's on drugs.
He said it.
Clean cut. I picked Gerard Butler as Green Lantern. Why not? He doesn't have any speaking roles really. Just let him look cool in the back. He'll be fine. Give him some grays on the side of his waves. Call it a nice day.
Yeah, I think I was going Patrick Warburton for that. If
Patrick Warburton was your Superman, though.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah. Who'd you have for the Joker? Did you cast the Joker?
No, I didn't have anybody cast for the Joker.
I just cast the Joker.
I could go Joe Montana or
Joe Piscopo.
Yeah.
I chose Willem Dafoe for the Joker because I always wanted him to be the Joker, and even if it is a
it's only like 10 seconds.
I don't care. Even if it's a cameo, I want him as my Joker, dude. I don't care.
Well, if it's a cameo, have Jack Nicholson do it.
Dude, I don't think Jack Nicholson can act anymore.
You don't need him to say anything. He just looks there.
Just paint him up and just prop him up.
Can we get the old man to stop shaking?
That's fucked up. Pardon my French. Who'd you
What did you
have for?
say? I didn't hear what you
I
said.
didn't hear what you said. Clear voices, clear voices. Who'd you do for Shazam, Captain Marvel?
No, I'm second guessing what I say. Captain Marvel. Uh, that's a tough one.
That was a tough one, but I think I found a good one for me.
Yeah, because they have like an important role to play in the film.
But yeah,
Like I want to, but he needs to be able to pop on screen.
yep.
Like I would go like a Michael Fassbender.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. See, I was
Dyeing
thinking
his hair. Yeah.
dye his hair, that infinite smile. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's the thing that was getting me, was the constant smile. I was like, who has a creepy ass smile? And then I remember watching Dexter a couple of weeks ago. I was like, Michael C. Hall would be an awesome Shazam.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Just a creepy, constant smile. And he's kind of a big guy, and you know what I mean? Just dye his hair. And he could be that awesome kind of dark mirror to Superman.
How about this? He can be Captain Marvel, and then for Lex Luthor we have Michael Fassbender.
That's fine, because what's funny is my Lex Luthor is Ben Kingsley.
Yeah, but he's not gonna do it.
If Ben Kingsley can do the Love Guru, he'll do this.
Well, he's not gonna do this because he already's done the Love Guru.
Oh, damn it. We should have called him earlier, man.
Yeah.
Who'd you get for Aquaman?
No one.
All right, real quick. For me, my Aquaman was Jeff Bridges. I wanted,
Jeff Bridges.
yeah, give him the beard. Let him be a country Aquaman. Country
You don't come around these waters.
You don't come around these waters. Anybody else you want to just kind of lay out that you cast that we didn't mention?
I think that Dead Man.
Make him make his voice Seth MacFarlane. What are you doing here? What are you doing here?
Yeah, Seth MacFarlane or Lewis Black.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I had Jude Law be my Flash just because I thought it would be cool to see him in something. That was about it. Julianne Moore as
worst casting director ever. Why did you pick Jude Law? He's asking like $50 million. Oh, we just want to see him in.
Yeah, we just want to see him. I miss him.
Yeah.
Give him whatever he wants.
We like making movies.
We like making movies. Who'd you choose as your director? Yeah, who do you want to direct all this?
I think it would have to be someone big. Like I just in the video I was watching this morning, it showed clips of a movie I haven't seen in a while called The Thin Red Line by, I believe, director's Tammy Malik.
Yeah.
Tommy Malik, whatever, Tammy. I think that would be a good director. Or I would go
like
Steven
a Sum of All
Spielberg.
Fears kind of thing, huh?
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
Steven Spielberg would be a good one because you need a director that's able to pump up the grand scale of this without losing like definition.
Without definition, without losing character development.
Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing. That's why with my director I went Clint Eastwood. I went Clint. Clint would be a good director for all these old folks.
Yeah.
And just
There weren't
really
any racial slurs in it until he came in.
Yeah, well, Batman's got to get it off his chest. I think Clint would just really be able to touch on the quietness of Norman, but also have other people kind of come in and help him with the action. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do like a Sin City where it's like, Robert Rodriguez is directing, but Quentin Tarantino directed this scene, and like J.J. Abrams directed that scene. So I think Clint will be able to just kind of tie it together and really, I want this to be like No Country for Old Men, but for superheroes. You know, that's kind of like where my Kingdom Come movie would come from. Like these damn young kids and their explosions. We got to settle them down. Oh man, this has been fun. This has been really fun. Been wanting to talk about this book for a long time. The artwork, the story, the meaning behind it, the heroes, how this book has kind of influenced a generation. Without this book, there would be no Civil War. You know what I'm saying? Without this book.
How dare you?
I'm just saying, this predates all that stuff, man. And for good reason, because it's one of those graphic novels I would still recommend for someone to go out and buy a physical copy at your local comic book store. There's nothing better than just having it on your shelf and be able to pull it down off your shelf and read it anytime you want. And plus, supporting your local comic book stores is vital to keeping the scene alive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they're doing the Lord's work, keeping this antiquated form of media alive for us to be able to see and just hand to someone and check this out. So I definitely just want to take a second to thank all of our independent comic book stores, especially Jeffrey's Comics, Gardena, California.
Only you can prevent forest fires. Okay.
Unless you're buying like a really bad comic book, don't set your stuff on fire. Did you have any passing comic book thoughts before we close this bad boy out?
Yeah, like if you have any more recommendations, send it our way or send it to me on Trashbunk the Third, Trashbunk I. That's Trashbunk I.
Yeah. You can also send,
That's all.
Ciao, dear. Sorry about that. Also send your recommendations to @mnerdiverse on Twitter. That is @mnerdiverse. Let you know what you think of this review, and if you have anything that you want us to check out, any graphic novels or collected tomes that you would like us to read and review and cast, please let us know. As of now, I've of course been your host, Mike G.
And I've been your host, Trashbunk the Third.
And we will always ask you to support your local comic book store. Support them now.
Just say no to drugs.
And just say no to drugs, unless it's some kind of super serum drug. Then take it.
Yeah, support your local comic book store.
Do it.